And next up, we have Original Enchantment, True Calling LitRPG book number 1, written by Thad Ward. It is 314 pages, $5.99. It's available on Kindle Limited, and here's the author's description. O devs who art in the issue queue, hallowed be thy code, thy commits merge without conflict, thy will be done in production as it is on local. I'm sure you guys are busy and all, but I can't log out. As a programmer, Ike knows all about virtual dive experiences, but when he suddenly wakes up in a virtual game he's never heard of, he's too busy struggling to survive to worry about how he got there. Luckily, he's got a trick up his sleeve, the ability to program custom enchantments for his gear. He'll need that and more to figure out what's going on, since there's no tutorial and True Calling plays by its own rules. Your class and race are chosen for you, and the NPCs are indistinguishable from players. Every quest is unique, and GMs keep leaving Ike's prayers unanswered. Okay, this is a super slice of life story. It's a trapped in a game story, but I'll be honest, the trapped in the game part is not really necessary, and it's not really the most compelling thing about the story. Most of the story has the main character casually fighting monsters, questing, grouping. One thing that separates it a little bit from others is that the main character has an artificer class and that he crafts a lot. So there we go. That's kind of the thing. Other than that, it is monster fighting, town defense, eventually, character relationships, the normal stuff in the story. And it's a fine story if you like crafting like I do. And I did appreciate some of the details about the class and how the main character maximizes those class features and abilities to gain some measure of power, because he's definitely doesn't start out strong at all. He's not an OP character, but he does get stronger over time by being smart about how he plays and what he's doing, and how he adventures, essentially. There are a few details that were a little off-putting in the story for me, which is, it's still a good story, on the lower end of 7 though. I don't think the main character really needed to do trapped in the game. This is one of those things for me. It's like, if you're going to do trapped in the game, do it well. And if it doesn't do well, that's one of the things that kind of detracts a little bit for me. The trapped in the game element didn't add anything to the story whatsoever. The main character's life is never threatened, and he's not really sure what happens to him if he dies. And he is the only person who's trapped, so it's really just him in the game, most of the time, just trying to not talk about it. The only thing that connects the story is a very minor thread in the novel, with the business and the main character having signed an NDA, which is why he can't tell anybody he's trapped in the game for some reason. And like, that seems like a weird thing to have if you're trapped in the game. Like, why would you ever sign a non-disclosure agreement saying you can't tell anybody if you can't get out, because then you can't ask for help? And I'm like, like I said, it didn't add anything. It just detracted slightly, for me at least. And that story thread really doesn't go anywhere whatsoever until like the very, very end. And at that point, it's like, oh, okay, you're trying to connect this to the next story, and this is your thing. I'm like, okay. There are also a few wand whipping moments from the end of the game that didn't really make sense as far as game mechanic terms that were established, but overall, it's fine. Like I said, it's a fun slice of life story. If you like crafting, if that's not your thing, you might not like it as much, because it really doesn't bring anything new to the table besides that. For me, had a good time with this still, 7.2 out of 10. That's again on the lower end of good. I still had a fine time. Not my favorite story of the week, but don't regret reading it whatsoever. It's Original Enchantment, True Calling LitRPG, book number 1 with the score of 7.2 out of 10.